what makes me want to talk, what makes me want to share, what makes me love my work activity. So what makes people love? Love, it's an energy. It's a energy part of our mind, which I'm not going to detail into this recording. I'm not going to describe what's the mind, what's the body, what's the energy, what's the mental capacity, what's the intellectual capacity, what's, people use different terms for different, that have different meanings for some people, for other people have different meanings. So in this recording, I'm not going to detail on that because I set, let's say, 5 minutes for this recording, and I have to get to a customer next to Fraser River. So I'll work on some boats, and it's going to be fun experience. For some people it's not that fun because their mind is built for something else, or they are not trained, or they decided not to love certain things. Like some people are into, let's say, working with numbers. Other people are into using the physical part of their body and mind connection. So I want to talk about mental programs, and I did touch this topic in the past, maybe once or twice, and it came up to the surface. It does once in a blue moon when I want to notice it. Otherwise, it's an everyday thing. Like when you make a coffee in the morning, some people make a coffee because they have a mental program that they build for over years or over a shorter period of time, and they just go for a coffee. They stop by McDonald's, they stop by Tim Hortons, whatever their favorite place, and they buy their favorite drinks because they associate the coffee with a feeling, with an emotion, and after that the emotion fades away, but the program is still there, so people still around the program. It's like when people fall in love with someone, they build some sort of an emotion. So they get emotion, but also they build some type of emotions. That's why people kind of stick with their partners even before marriage, before signing this official contract which is called marriage. So at first there is a powerful emotion, a complex emotion when you add to the mix the sexuality. Then over the time, because the brain is built to seek and discover new things, the old becomes old and those emotions fade away. So people have to learn some tricks how to maintain the new, the excitement. And so the old is not interesting anymore, even is like a year old or something, and people seek for something else. But why lots of people stick with their partners before they marry, before they get into the legal bonding or official relationship that keeps those people together? So beside kids and beside marriage, what it does is the program. So people build programs around that person. It's like, oh yeah, you know what, we do these things together, we wake up together, we do this and that. That's really building the bond. Let me see where I'm turning. That's okay, no trucks coming. Oopsie, they built something here, weird. This was not here before. I guess the trucks were crossing, weird. That's okay, safer, better. And okay, nice. Now road work. That's good to have some challenge. Okay. And I'm going to park next to the river so I can spend a couple of minutes because I already exceeded my 5 minutes talk. Can't keep a promise when it's about talking. So that's the city workers doing some work here in the park. Now, oh, I was supposed to go to another customer to drop off some stuff, but I can do that after that. Let's see the river. Show you the river in the winter time. And you see when people, yeah, I'm not going to load the ferry. You see when people divorce or they lose someone, they have some sort of a pain and suffering because those programs are still in the brain. And people open the program and they want to play it back, but because it gives certain emotions. But the person is not there anymore. Like I said, they split, a person died or the person left the relationship, and it brings lots of memories which are actually programs. So not all the memories are programs, but these ones are programs. Like, oh yeah, we used to take the kids to the park in the Sundays, we used to go to see soccer games, we used to do this. And when the person is expecting an emotion, so let's say they bring a program because it's automatic, and they try to run the program expecting for an emotion, but that leads to disappointment, which they translate as pain and suffering sometimes. So you get the idea. If you want to get over a lost relationship or a disconnect, then you have to disconnect from all those programs. Anything that will remind you about the program. Let's say if you drive by your coffee place and you know that your ex-boyfriend used to buy you coffee and it gave you a pleasant emotion, then stop going by that place until it takes some years until the program fades away from the memory. It's starting to forget things. And another trick is replace those programs with more powerful emotions that you start now creating a new program. So those are a couple of tricks. That's a ferry crossing the Fraser River and taking the passengers and car to Barnstone Island. It's a nice place, lots of farm fields, and you can take your bicycle and you go bike riding. And across there is an airport. It's Pitt Meadows Airport. I landed there sometimes, but this is not flying for me. It's not really my type of flying. The programs I love to play when I fly in the mountains, and glaciers and stuff. Those are the things that gives me the emotion. So I did not build those programs yet, like a deep programs, but maybe I will. I don't know. I don't want to get addicted to flying too much because it costs lots of money. That's why I fly my other thing, or I go paragliding, and that also I want to not doing very often, so I don't want to build a program, because if I get sick, if I see people paragliding or see some videos, then I'll bring some programs back wanting me to do that thing. But program is related to those things when you do without thinking. So when I go paragliding or something like that, then I have to think every step. I don't do much of a automatic stuff, so it's not safe. And even with airplane flying, it's you need to look through checklists. Even you know those by heart, those operations by heart. But people should not rely on automatic programs, because those programs can be altered. So you play the program and 100 times or something, and at some point you are tempted to cut some of the steps, because you think, you know what, it worked without that, like the manufacturers do. They get a project, and in the project they have some number of parts and number of steps, but in the manufacturing process there are some techs or some other people who think, oh yeah, let's save some energy, some time, some money. Same with the brains. The brain looks into ways to save energy, because it costs you energy to feed the brain with energy, with food. And yeah, so over the time, out of a long program, you may cut some corners. And that's why it's important, when you do something that's related to safety, follow every single step that you know it's safe, and don't shortcut, don't minimize the program. Because people, like I said, people do that all the time, even in a relationship. So you have, let's say, a relationship, a 10 years old relationship, and now you have some programs. Even when you have sex, you go through some things, not necessarily automatically, but you don't have to think a lot, because you've done those things before with your partner, and now you start cutting some corners, because if it works, why not? And then the relationship becomes sloppy, becomes less intense like before, and you're not aware you cut the corners and you cut some of the steps, because you don't do it right suddenly. You make a tiny change over the years. So at first you say I love you, and you say it, you think of it, then you say I love you, and slowly it changes to love baby bye, or something, or you forgot to say it. And so you cut some corners there, and you cut some corners when you think, oh yeah, you know what, yeah, filling the wife's car gas tank. So at first you think of it, then you build a program, and it's like part of automatic. Oh yeah, that's my routine. I have to fill her gas tank. But after a while, if you see that it works, you can cut some corners, or you don't care about her or something, then, or you don't make her a coffee or something, then cut that corner, because it works, and one at a time. And later, 10 years later, you realize that you cut so many corners that your relationship is not significant anymore. But the thing is, even your partner is building some programs, and they don't really notice unless someone else comes into the picture, which gives them a different emotion. And now think, you know what, yeah, my wife used to do this, used to say that, used to love me this way or something, and now I see this cool woman or cool guy or something. I'm recording here while the ferry comes back to docking here, and I'm going to customer. So I'm just using this opportunity to record this thing. And yeah, so none of the partners observe, because those changes are in the programs are very tiny. And years later, one of the partners start complaining because they notice something else, something that refresh some excitement, because the brain is built to always look for something like a new challenge, new discovery. We are hunters and gatherers, and part of the brain is to seek and find and take the opportunities, right? So again, that's the mental program. And related to that, since the ferry is not coming, related to that, there are people who poison their bodies using mental programs they built. So they go for this activity, for that activity, which is not healthy, for that food, for that drink, and they build those programs, and you see them in the morning doing things like zombies. They don't even process anymore because it's part of their program's automatic system. In the morning I saw a woman, before she tried to cross the street and before she pressed the button, the pedestrian crosswalk button we have here in Canada, those crosswalks with buttons. Some of those have buttons, some of those don't, some of those are just automatic. And that's just in case if you watch this one from different country, where the crosswalks don't have any signaling system, any warning system. So before she pressed the button, she made a cross sign, like with your hand, like the Christians do, especially Orthodox people do. And that reminded me that I haven't seen people doing that for years. So when I was a kid, my parents were teaching me how to do that. It's like you create a sort of a energy barrier that protects you. So you're supposed to get protection, they believe, if you make that sign. So I don't want to discuss this topic now, but I believe that woman did that cross sign because she you make a cross by making a hand movement, hand gesture, connecting 4 points on your body, on your face, like in front of your body. And I assume that the woman was just playing back a program. I'm not quite sure if everyone is thinking, you know what, before crossing the crosswalk, crossing the street, I need to think of Jesus. He died on the cross. So now I need to make this gesture to send some sort of a vibe to Jesus to protect me, or to call the divine world and look at me, I'm crossing the street and I need protection or something. I don't think the woman thought anything like that. I think she just did it automatically, and because she did that for years, maybe she was taught by someone else how to do it, and maybe she thought, okay, I'm doing this because I have to cross the street, right? So that's a program. Or I'm buying the coffee because it's morning, not because coffee does this to my body, coffee does help me with this, has these benefits or something. No, it's morning. I'm on my way to work. On my way to work there is a McDonald's restaurant, and I drive in, line up, have the money ready, place the order, next pick up a pay, then next pick up my order, next get the coffee and start drinking it, next I'm driving, next I get to the office, next I finish my coffee, next I start doing my work. So that's part of the program most people do. And while they played back the program, they sometimes you see so many coffee cups, cardboard coffee cups, um, discarded into the environment. Some of those get recycled. Lots of plastic stuff. So people, let's say, oh yeah, buying sandwiches for the kids or making sandwiches for the kids. Also, oh, buying this one from the grocery store, some yogurts, like a little tiny yogurts. We used to do that. We were playing back a program because we thought, oh yeah, that's convenient. So we were buying yogurts, we were packing the yogurts with the kids' lunch in a lunch box, and every little yogurt, maybe 2 a day, 3 a day, 1 a day, was making one empty plastic container that was going somewhere. Now they recycle it a lot, but not everyone is recycling, especially if you look at the people in the United States and many other countries. People don't really recycle like here in Canada. And now you have a big world population, and imagine how much plastic goes into the landfill. And that's because people, instead of thinking, they play back these programs. Okay, so I'll stop by voice and we'll get out of the car to record this thing coming. Then I'll go back to the customer. I have to work on some tiny boats today on this river. I'm excited. So that was my talk about, or my thoughts about mental programs and why it's important to think and open your mind and think instead of playing some programs that you built previously. Talk to you later. Bye bye.